Hello and welcome to another episode of A Reader's Paradise. Say, if you like the interviews that are on the show and you like the literature that's being performed for you, please hop on over to your podcast app and give us a 5-star review and leave us a rating. Your reviews and ratings really help others to find the show. Also, stick around at the end of this episode because I have a special preview of my new podcast audio drama called Lenny Gray. You will want to stick around to hear the story that I have to tell at the end of this podcast. With that being said, I would like to introduce to you guys a nonfiction author. His name is Dirk Maierhafer, and let me give you a little bit of his background. Dirk Maierhafer is a widely sought-after motivational speaker who believes you can go from ordinary to extraordinary by creating an environment that supports your team members' hopes, dreams, and passions. An environment that is supportive both professionally and personally will have a direct impact on your organization's ability to prosper. Dirk understands the power that supportive leadership can have and how it can benefit your team, your customers, and your community. As an author with an unmatched passion for financial freedom, he inspires change within individuals and organizations. You will have a new sense of hope that anything is possible when you're willing to take action. So, Dirk, thank you so much for being with us here on A Reader's Paradise, and take a little bit more time to give us a little bit more background about you.
Hey, Earl, how's it going today?
Oh, it's going good, man.
Great. It's great to be on your podcast. I appreciate the invite. It's always nice to share a story. So, well, a little bit about the book and myself. It's basically a journey, trying to help everybody out financially. Some of the stuff we normally do is done based on our circumstances, based on some of the things we hear and say or see on the media. I tried to create a book that was more relevant to something I would have wanted when I started out as a young lad. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things where it's good information, it's compact information, and you can pick it up basically at any point in your life.
And the book is called The Quick Start Guide to Financial Success. That's the name of the book that we're talking about here. And this is designed to be a sort of general ideas or some general principles and concepts that any reader can take at any point in their financial life and make adjustments and changes that would be beneficial and helpful in the long run. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. It's like I said, I wrote it from a standpoint of, man, I wish I had this information when I was growing up, because typically we only get one shot at most items, such as buying your first car, those type of items, and that environment that we're all used to is, always refer to a friend or a family member of how to go about doing it. Yeah. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they've done it correctly either.
Okay.
Because that small circle of people that is your influence, sometimes good, bad, or otherwise, doesn't mean it's necessarily correct.
You know what? You just dropped something that's really, really important here that I don't think a lot of people may not have awareness of. And that is that your family background when it comes to money plays a role. It plays a role throughout your life. Because, our family is where we learn a lot of things from. That's where a lot of our habits and perceptions are created. For example, my mother would always say, when reconciling her checkbook, she would say things, we ain't behind, we just broke. or Or, she would come up with these, phrases, that she would, say to try to reconcile, the situation of having more month than she did money. And so, those sorts of things, carry over, spill over into your adult life from childhood, because then it sort of shapes your relationship with money, especially if you grew up in a household where, money was always tight. Some of the negative some of the negative comments I've heard about money, and, maybe some of the listeners have heard this one, is money doesn't grow on trees. Have you heard that one, Dirk?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so go ahead.
No, it's true. It doesn't grow on trees, but
well, technically it does when you think about printed money.
I was just going to go into that. It grows in the field, kind of, because it's a cotton blend and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So we won't get into the technicals of money, but or at least how it's produced.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's the environment that you grow up in. It shapes you. It molds you, to the person you are, and the influences around you from, your friends, your family, media, TV, those type of things influence how we think, how we understand or supposed to understand what things are. And money is one of those weird things that everybody uses, but nobody is educated on.
Yeah.
Everybody assumes you know how to manage your money. Well, this is how we did it. You've got situations where we don't talk about money in our family. Why not? Why not? How do you get educated? By learning, by studying. But we don't do it about money.
Isn't that crazy? That is a great point that you bring up, because that is true. I most certainly have heard that, we don't talk about, money. Because I think it's such a painful, for many people, it just may be a painful subject to approach, especially if you're coming from the perspective of not having enough of it or feeling like you don't have enough of it. And also, I believe on the opposite side of the aisle or the spectrum here, I think that some people who do have an abundance of money sometimes actually have guilt about it. I know I've certainly seen that, from individuals who come from more affluent backgrounds where, that just wasn't an issue. But for some reason, some of them actually feel a bit guilty for being successful. So it's not just it's not just a perspective of not having enough that you have issues. You may have also some hangups from having too much.
Right. Well, it's family dynamic. Easy for me to say. Family dynamics, community dynamics, church dynamics. Well, you make more, so you can afford more. Well, to be honest with you, how many millionaires have gone broke? Professional athletes, you hear, they're making millions of dollars. Well, professional-wise, NFL, NBA, those type of sports, within 5 years, they're broke, but they had millions of dollars.
You hear that a lot with lottery winners too.
Oh, yeah.
People who win ridiculous sums of money in the lottery and then find themselves broke in, 10 years or 15 years or something. And you're like, well, how does that happen? I heard it explained to me this way. And, you tell me if this holds true. The way it was explained to me is, if you take, let's stick with the athlete analogy. If you take a gifted athlete who comes from an environment where there was scarcity, lack, and struggle, and you put them into a contract, and suddenly they have financial prosperity and abundance, that's a huge psychological leap to go from not having enough to having more than enough. And so,
absolutely.
So the person may change environments physically, but from a psychological perspective, when it comes to resources and money and how to invest and all that stuff, that information wasn't in the beginning of this person's life. They didn't know that information, as you said, our schools don't teach it. Sometimes our parents don't teach it. Our community doesn't teach it, but yet and still we're expected to know how. And so so as outsiders, we look at people who from the outside looking in saying, oh my God, they have all of this wealth. They have all of this abundance. They have all of this stuff. They must be living a great life. And then to hear later that they're broke or, they're on Skid Row or some other, fate, it's hard for us to compute because we're saying, well, you have the money now. But again, just because you have it doesn't mean you know what to do with it. And that's where your book sort of comes in, correct?
Right. I mean, look at your own personal finances. Okay. If there's always somebody that's going to have more than you and less than you. So those people that have less than you can look at you and say, well, you've got a house, you've got a car, you've got money, but you pull back the shower curtain and you see the naked truth. And it's not pretty sometimes. You've got lots of people, rolling around in Beamers and Benz and, $5,000 suits and look at us and I get a Rolex and look at me and look at my social media profile and look at all the stuff I have.
Status materialism.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where you look at it and it's like, wow, that's nice. But that's it. I would like to have that. But that's it. You don't know the background. You don't know what they've gone through to get there or what they're, posing as.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they have it doesn't mean they actually own it.
Yeah.
That's one thing that people forget is just because you have it doesn't mean you own it. How many people go out, buy a new home? How many people pay cash for it?
Mm-hmm.
Get a new car. How many people pay cash for it?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a misconception of, well, I can afford it. Affordability means you have money in the bank that you can pay for it in full. That's affordability.
I like that. It means that you already have the cash resources, liquid cash resources that you can tap into and pay for something outright without having to, miss a step. Instead of living, month to month, check to check. I've heard the phrase saying that most people are just one paycheck away from being homeless. And we also, and tying this into, current events, a couple of months ago when the federal government shut down and you saw, these working class people going to food banks because they didn't have money. They didn't have money to get for gas to get to their job. They didn't have money, to get the kids to school. They were running out of money for food.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, until you have a situation, look at 2008, 2009, with the market crash and lots of people, suffered immensely. And there's no way to look at that and get down to the micro details of how it affected generations from that event because of, okay, now most people it took like 10 years to get back to where they were. So that's 10 years of investing that's gone. How can you make up for that? How can you look at the future and see what kind of impact that's going to make on the next generation, the following generation?
Mm-hmm.
We can't. I mean, that's, you need to look at your situation, dial it into where you're at and understand, okay, what can I do to help ensure that I'm not going to be hurt by a downturn in the economy downturn. That's just a nice way of saying, people got hurt by, other people's mistakes.
Yeah, they did. Now let's dive deeper into that, into protecting yourself financially and what you can do, because, quite honestly, at least I believe, and I could be wrong here, but I think that most Americans, aren't trained on how to, do investments. They're not trained on, what to do with their money. We live, I think, in a society that constantly pushes messages of materialism. Oh, you need this car, or you need this bigger house, or you need this outfit. And we have been, so conditioned to become consumers and spenders. But, the same messaging is not pushed when it comes to investing for yourself or even learning it. The message that we get is let somebody else do the investing for you to keep you in the dark. And, we'll do the investing for you so you can keep doing what you do. And hopefully at the end of all of this, you'll have, enough money in retirement that you can take care of yourself, and you won't end up like, oh, what was the name of that company? It was a really big company, maybe about a decade or so ago, where the Enron. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if you worked and you did all of that, and then you find out this person has robbed the organization blind, and you're 55, 56 years old, and all of your retirement money that you've saved for these years is gone. And then on top of that, your work life history in corporate America is now, on a very short leash. There's not enough time for you to make up that sort of money as an employee.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the sooner you start, the better off you are. So, I mean, I would love to see individuals in high school start understanding, the financial impacts of what they buy, what they purchase, what they save, what they invest at an early age. Most people don't start investing until they're age 40. I mean, that's only 25 years to invest. And I've got some calculations within the book. I give two examples of it. I think it's Sam and Mark, and one guy starts at his family talks about money, and the parents actually encourage the young guy out of college to invest. So he starts investing at age 20, 21, something like that, and he's able to retire comfortably. And then we've got the other gentleman that invests, and he's, oh, well, yeah, I've got time. Well, next thing you know, he's 40 years old, and he hasn't saved a dime. And most people think, oh, yeah, I'll get to it. But I like I said, I've done the calculations, and the first guy has $1 million more than the other guy, just because he started earlier. Mm-hmm. Time is your friend when you're young. When you're older, it's hard to do, makeup.
Yeah, because you have more years behind you than you do ahead of you. And also, I think what, at least here in the United States, what people have to understand is that your work life has an expiration date. The amount of, because as you start hitting your 50s and definitely your 60s, your hireability rate goes down. But that doesn't mean that you're not functional, that you don't need money, or that you don't need resources, because you're still going to need, resources. And if you did not save enough, that's going to come back to haunt you. And so let me ask you this question. You said something, that really caught my attention. You said most people don't, they put it off. Why do you think that particular segment of the population decides not to? Is there a mindset behind that you can help people to bring some awareness to?
Well, it's, life gets in the way, basically. We're too busy trying to, pay for our college loans and buy a new house and buy a car. And, well, when you have all that money going out to bills, how are you going to invest? You're making investing a second or third or fourth priority when it should be your first. I've always heard the term pay yourself first. And that's what it means. It says literally pay yourself first. But the easiest way to start paying yourself first is not to overspend. If you only have $10, you can only spend $10. In fact, you should only spend $8 so you get some reserve.
You know what? And that right there was one of the other questions that I marked down, and I wanted to see if we can do a bit of a deep dive into this. And the question is, like, when we're making financial decisions, because we all have to go through at some point in our lives, we have to make perhaps a big financial decision. And we all go through an internal mental process of trying to give ourselves permission to make a purchase. And sometimes we can think that we're making a good decision, but discover later that it perhaps was a bad one and went against what we truly wanted. And so, are there any tools that we can, think about before making a purchase to say, let me step back here. If I need to buy this, let's say a car, do I need the high-end car? Do I need the car with all the bells and whistles? Right. Is there a way to, because I think also tied to money is emotions. And sometimes
absolutely.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Emotions are basically the biggest downfall of any type of financial transaction that, it falls into a want or a need. I mean, wants, oh yeah, I want that, $50,000, Escalade, so on and so forth, with all the bells and whistles. Yeah, it'll look so cool in it. But, okay, you need to dial that back, and it's to go, what do I need? And the part of the problem is we are so worried about what other people are going to think of what we're either wearing, driving around in, living in, that it prohibits us from doing the right financial move. So instead of going and buying that brand new car, which you can't pay cash for, you're going to go get a loan because you want to keep up with the Joneses. Nothing against the Joneses, but they get the bad rap. So it's the emotions of purchasing something for an emotional stimulation and emotional high of, look at what I got. Look, hey everybody, look what I got. Mm-hmm. And it's funny through my journey, through going from, being in debt, I think $130,000 of debt. And we just decided that, what, enough's enough. And you have to make the conscious decision of what is important to you. Is it the instant gratification? I think Staples had the easy button. I mean, yeah, it's easy to do the wrong things most of the time. It's hard to do the right things most of the time because it's work. Look at exercise. How many people enjoy exercising? I mean, literally enjoy exercising. Whereas they probably just want to sit on a couch or, do some activity that's not conducive to a benefit. So the benefit of exercising is better health. So what's the benefit for making better financial decisions? You'll have a bigger stockpile of cash to do things that are conducive financially to you in the long term. So you can invest.
Right. Here's another one that this is going to, do a deep dive, and I want to get your thoughts on this one, especially for young people who may just be coming out of college or just starting out in life, and dealing with the myriad of emotions that come with transitioning from adolescence to adulthood. One of the things that I wish I had personally thought to ask or consider is, before tying the knot, understanding the partner's relationship with money. Do you think that, because a lot of marriages end over financial issues, how important how important is it for you as a young person, or maybe even an older person going the second or third time around, to stop and say, I need to understand, is this person a spender? Is this person a saver? Does this person have emotional control when it comes to resources? Are they going to, drain me? Should I get a joint bank account, or should I keep my account separate? Should I worry about investing for me and not for them? Like, how do you navigate a conversation like that when you're because when you're going to say I do, that's just as much of a huge decision, life decision, because there's so much tied into it. All of your wealth is intermingled with this other person, and you got to make sure that this person, you and this person, are on the same page. But how do you have those kind of conversations?
Yeah, I mean, those are really tough conversations, but it's in the benefit of both parties to
Mm-hmm.
understand where their financials lie, as in, and I don't take lie as in lie about their financials, but that's part of the issue, because some people do. And it's easier to get it out on the table and get, hey, this is where I'm at financially. I've got, this debt. I own a car. I own a house. I own, my cabin. I go, get all that out initially before you say I do. Because if you're both on the same page in the same book, it's much easier to move forward.
Yeah. And it's just having, that dignified conversation about money, because as we said earlier, some families don't talk about money. It's like, you can grow up and, some people view that as taboo. You don't ask me about money or my financial situation. And, that may be a cultural thing for some people, that, may cause, some hiccups in any type of relationship. So yeah, I think you're right that you really have, that's one of the considerations that you have to have, because if you put that out on the table first and say, okay, I'm fresh out of college, I'm $80,000 in student loan debt, and the monthly payment on this is going to be, $760 a month off the bat. $700 of my wealth is going out the door every month before I buy food, before I can do any, whatever. So, and then if I'm marrying another college educated person, and, they have the same amount of debt. So now you have $1,400 in monthly debt before you can even, that's a mortgage. And then,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then, then people say, oh, I want a house. I want to raise a family. I want to live in this community. I want to live in, and then the debt just starts piling up. And like you said, the next thing you know, you're $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 in debt. And it's easy to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because money is at a low interest rate. You should buy it, or you should, take out a loan for this. And it's like, okay, that's one of the things going through, writing the book, was some of the, blatant observations of, boy, that was really stupid, and that's about myself. It's like, but I didn't know any better. You're asking people that are going to make money off you, if it's a good idea, to take out a loan. So your mortgage broker, your loan officer for your car,
Mm-hmm.
those type of things, college admissions, college, anything to do with college, that is one of the most devastating detriments that anybody can do, is take out a loan. Obviously not to the financial institution, but to, the individual. Look at what items you are going to put on hold or have to sacrifice because you owe somebody else money. So you're going to put maybe buying a house on hold.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know why they call it buying a house, because most people take out a mortgage. You stop paying the payments, guess what? That house isn't yours anymore. Same thing with a car.
Yeah.
It's those we get it. We've gotten into this, I'm going to buy a house. No, you're not. You're going to take out a loan to basically lease a house until you pay for it, which is 30 years. 30 years from now.
I like how you switched the language on that, because
Yeah,
our society conditions us to say we're buying, and in reality, we aren't buying a doggone thing.
you're renting. You stop paying, guess what? They're going to repossess your car. They're going to take your home. And it's not your home. It's their home. You're just renting space until it's paid for.
Yeah, and then hopefully at the end of the 30 years, you're healthy enough to enjoy it.
Right. What's scary is that, I mean, there's people that are retired that still have mortgages on their homes. And it's like, you're not working anymore, and you still have that financial obligation. You know, the preface of the golden years has, kind of faded away because everybody's still having to work because of, poor financial decisions. And I heard a story one time where there was a guy going out to help his aunt or grandma or something like that, and it ended up he stayed there a little bit longer than he thought he was going to do, and ended up needing something for lunch or dinner or something like that, and it's like, okay, well, I'll just go in the kitchen and find something to eat. Well, cupboards were pretty much bare, and then came across one of the cupboards had either cat food or dog food or something like that. And, well, the grandma or the aunt didn't have a cat or a dog. I mean, that's scary.
Mm.
I mean, that scared the Jesus out of me. I'm like, dude, I don't ever want that to be an option.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It's scary. I mean, people think Social Security, at least in America, is going to take care of them. I mean,
no, it's not.
It's like less than $2,000 a month. So take your current situation, have no other income, no investments, and you're depending on the government to fulfill their obligation of a monthly check of $2,000. What are you going to do with $2,000?
That brings up, that is so true. And, when you talk about Social Security, another thing that that I know I personally went through this because, I'm of a certain age. I'm a Gen Xer, middle-aged Gen Xer. And I did not.
29, huh?
Yeah, I'm 29. Exactly. But as we mature, this is something I certainly did not see, because as I began to mature, I suddenly realized that I had to become a caregiver for my father, who did not save enough. And like you said, was trying to live off of Social Security. And the shame that came with that, because, he was beyond working years at this point, and the money that he was getting just wasn't enough to sustain him. So then he, I'm an only child, so he had to rely on me to help out financially. And,
right.
And so, of course, as a son, you do what you have to do, but still that's a pull,
Mm-hmm.
and, for me, it was a wake up call. It was an even bigger wake up call. Like, let me make sure that I'm investing enough so that I don't end up in this same situation where I have to depend on family members to take care of me, and I'm only, 70 years old.
Right. Well, and to think of it as, why do you feel you have the power to burden somebody else? It's all about personal responsibility, which a lot of people nowadays don't want to. Nope, it's not my problem, not my fault. I didn't do it. Look at them. Oh, they're supposed to do this. That's a daily occurrence, and that's the mindset, the mantra of, or you're owed something. One of my pet peeves is I deserve. The statement "I deserve" drives me nuts. Just the word "deserve,"
mm-hmm.
as in if you're speaking it from yourself, I deserve this. That just drives me nuts. because you do not deserve anything. You earn it.
Right.
Whether it's respect, whether it's money, whether it's friends, whether it's influence, you earn it.
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned that, because I think a lot of people, when they're making, big financial decisions, one of the first things that they say to themselves is, I deserve this.
I worked hard. I deserve it. No, you have to earn it. And, marketing of, afford this now, afford that, drive home today, no payments for a month or 2 months, put it on a credit card, put it on, I was going to say layaway, but you're paying for it as you go along. So, but the idea of, buy now, pay later, it should be pay now, enjoy later.
Hey, I like that. Pay now and enjoy later. I like that. And that still goes to the concept of cash is still king. One of the financial tips that I got, which I thought was really a good one, was don't use your debit card everywhere, because you're not tracking that. Take a certain amount of cash out. That way you see the cash that you have in your hand and you know what you're working with. But if you're constantly using a debit card to go into your account and, buy this and buy that and buy this because they made it convenient, you don't see where your money is going. It's just,
there's no emotional pain going, wow, that $100 bill is now a 50 and 220s, and now that 50 is now a 10, and now you see that reduction in resources.
Yeah, you do.
And with a credit card, a debit card, you physically do not see it. You swipe whatever, and it's gone magically.
Yeah.
You never feel the pain.
Yeah.
You work so hard for that money, but you're willing to just give it away and not track it.
Yeah.
And it's a pain to do budgets and get everything in order, but it's worth it. I mean, you're worth it. I mean, do you not want to be enjoying your life when you're retired and not have to worry about payments, enjoying vacations, enjoying just life in general, spending time with the grandkids, spoiling the heck out of them, those type of things? Most of us don't think about until we're there or within a short distance of being there. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I got to do this.
Yeah.
And normally it's too late. Not necessarily too late, but there's no way you can catch up to where you should be.
Right.
I think, it's literally basic math. It's 1 plus 1 equals 2. 3 minus 1 is 2. So it's that simple, but by not having a plan in place of what you're going to do with your money is a failure on your future.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And so, Dirk, I think this is a great time to take a little departure and read a little bit from your book, The Quick Start Guide to Financial Success.
Oh, that'd be awesome. The Quick Start Guide to Financial Success will help you with life's financial challenges, such as getting out of debt, buying a car, paying for college, buying a house, saving for retirement, and many other financial milestones that will have lifelong impact on you, your family. Unfortunately, the lack of basic financial education is being taught in today's world. And this is one of the biggest reasons people are struggling financially. But you can have a better life. I wanted to write a book that could be handed out to anyone at any point in their life. That would be easy to understand, useful at any point to get started in making sound financial decisions. The Quick Start Guide to Financial Success book starts to fill in the gaps to make your life easier along the way.
Welcome back. And that was a quick excerpt from The Quick Guide to Financial Success. And so, Dirk, tell us a little bit about that passage, because there was a lot of nuggets of wisdom in there. Just, getting people's mind wrapped around some of the things that they're going to have to deal with, in their lifetime when it comes to finances.
Yeah, the Quick Start Guide to Financial Success is basically a journey through life of making financial decisions. We typically come across items once in our lifetime. So first time you buy a car, first time you buy a house, first time you go to college. A lot of firsts that we're unaware of. How to make a good financial decision about it. Emotional impact. Emotions have such a huge impact on what we do. It's amazing how we can justify it's supposed to be a good deal or justify why we want something because our emotions are involved. And these are things that we come up against, once in our lifetime, and it makes an impact on the rest of your life. So if you make wrong financial decisions, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just agreeing with you, and it's making the wrong financial decisions. We all can feel the impact of that. But when we make the right financial decisions, although we may not necessarily feel good about it at the time, but in the long run, when you make the right financial decision, it eases suffering. It eases your suffering because you're doing the right thing financially, for you and your family and those sorts of things. It may not be popular. It may not be well received at the time, but it is the right thing to do. And learning your own emotional status, or learning your own emotional states around money is, I think, a big first step, because you have. Yeah, go ahead.
If you sorry to interrupt, but if you're in a high pressure situation where, sign here, sign now, it's, timeshares are good for that. You've got such a great deal, blah, 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 so on and so forth. Why is that such a pressure situation? Well, they know if you walk out the door, there's a very slim chance that you're going to come back, so they're going to lose their commission. They're going to lose, revenue. But you got to remember, it's your money. So if somebody keeps, pressuring you, just get out of the situation, walk away, go have lunch, think about it, talk about it. There's really not too many things in life that you need to make a financial decision about right this very second. Talk about it, think about it, run the numbers for yourself. Don't believe anybody else, because their job is to get in your wallet.
Isn't that the truth? And you know who else is good for that? Retailers at the checkout line. Do you have our store's credit card?
Yeah.
It's like, no. Would you like to apply for one? No. And so sometimes when the cashier at the register asks me that, would you like to apply for one? I said, would you like to pay for my daughter's college debt?
Yeah.
It's like, no, you would not.
Yeah. I mean, they're doing what they're trained to do, which, they're trying to make money. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with making money. It's that, one, the money you earn is yours. You can either give it away freely, but make the plan, stick to it, and understand what's important to you, what's important to your family, what's important to your future.
Yeah, I give you that. Well, Dirk, we are coming up to our time here on A Reader's Paradise. It has been a plum-pleasing pleasure talking to you, but I know there are some listeners out there who will want to know where they can get your book, The Quick Start Guide to Financial Success, where they can find you on social media. Can they tweet you? Can they, follow you on Instagram and those sorts of things? Or do you have a website that, connects all of that together? Can you give us that information?
Well, anybody can go to my website. It's dirkwrights.com. That's DIRKWRITES.com. You'll see more information about the book. You can purchase the book through my link there. You can also go to my other website, dirktalks.com, where I am a speaker and coach, helping businesses and individuals make better money decisions. Because guess what? Businesses, you have employees. And if the employees are not making good financial decisions personally, they're probably not making the best financial decisions professionally. As far as Twitter, you can contact me on the Quick Start G1, Instagram, guide_2_financial_success. That's a little bit long, but it is what it is. Facebook, you can also contact me at the Quick Start G1, and then LinkedIn at Dirk Maierhafer.
Well, wonderful. Dirk, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to talk with us about this very important subject of financial success, and getting folks to think about, what's the dollar amount that you think you would need in order to, live a financially free life, where you're not saddled down with debt. Because as we all know, when you're not saddled down with debt and you have, an abundance of resources to live this lifestyle that you want, there's so much joy that comes with not having that particular type of burden weighing you down. And so again, Dirk, go ahead.
Absolutely. And not only that, the amount of stress that is gone is amazing.
Oh yeah.
It's freeing. It's literally, okay, think about your paycheck, how much is coming in and how much is going out, and think about if all that money was coming in. Now what are you going to do? It's all yours. It's your choice.
Absolutely. And with that, that is the time for our show. Thank you, everybody. And until next time, happy reading. Well, this special edition of A Reader's Paradise is to introduce you listeners to a new podcast that I have called Lenny Gray. A little bit about the story. It is a serial drama podcast set in the American South in the early 20th century. It is a story that follows a woman through her lifetime. It is a powerful story that has American and world history interwoven into the storyline. The story takes place, or I should say the story starts off in Alabama in 1918, just prior to the onset of the Spanish flu pandemic. I wanted my listeners here to be the first to get this exclusive preview of the new audio drama called Lenny Gray. I hope you enjoy it. Katie Books Productions presents Lenny Gray, an audio drama, written, produced, and narrated by Earl Sewell. Previously on Lenny Gray.
I got to have you, Lenny. I ain't gonna let no other man get a hold of you. I aim to be the only man in your life for the rest of your days. I mean that. So either you marry me tonight or you don't marry in your lifetime. I'll make sure of it.
There was an ultimatum in Curly's voice and an uncompromising fire in his eyes. he would beat her into her grave if she didn't do what he wanted. And Ida, his mean-spirited mother, would stand by and allow him to do it. Both of them had caverns of blackness so deep in their souls that even the light of God couldn't reach the bottom of them. He'd hit her before for trying to break up with her. He punched her so hard that she had a headache for 2 days. She couldn't go to the sheriff. He was another member of the white side of Curly's family. Besides, Sheriff Quinney cared as much about a colored man beating his woman as he did about shooting, hanging, or placing a colored person in jail. It just didn't matter to him, one way or the other. Lenny Gray wanted to move, but felt as if something had forced her body to become paralyzed. Curly took a slightly gentler approach. He pulled her close to him, attempting to ease her fear. He pressed her cheek against his chest and combed his fingers through her hair. Lenny Gray felt tears stinging the back of her eyes when she inhaled the strong scent of moonshine that was seeping through his skin.
You belong to me. I wanted you the moment you started to blossom. I said to myself, Curly, that Lenny Gray is going to be your wife. You got them pretty gray eyes, long black hair. You the prize of Sweetwater. Well, my prize anyway. That's why I kept coming around your daddy. I wasn't coming around so much for him as I was doing it to try to get close to you. I wanted you to like me. Don't you remember how I was always bringing you stuff you needed? If you needed new shoes that your daddy couldn't afford to get right away, I helped him out. In fact, I'm the one who got you them shoes you got on your goddamn feet now. Most folks around this town ain't never gonna know what it feel like to have shoes on their feet. Is the preacher still in the wagon, boy?
Lenny Gray looked into Ida's face, which had an impatient expression.
Yeah, he's still there,
Curly answered.
I'm gonna go get him so y'all can be married and we can get back before the rain starts,
said Ida as she stepped off the train tracks and walked towards the road. Curly stepped back and placed Lenny Gray's face between the palms of his calloused hands. He looked so deeply into her eyes that she felt her soul wince.
I know you love me. You may not say it or know how to show your feelings for me, but I know and understand that you do. I'm the best man you could ever hope for, and the sooner you let that settle into your head, the better. Don't make no sense for you try to run away from a good man like me. Shh. Don't talk. Just let me hold your shivering body close. You carry my family inside of you. There ain't no way in the world I'm gonna allow a pretty girl like you to run away from me to be mistreated by some fool. I'm gonna take care of you. You won't have to worry about nothing except taking care of the shanty I'm gonna build and the babies we gonna put on this earth. Lenny, we gonna make a lot of pretty babies together.
Lenny Gray felt as if she had just fallen out of the trouble tree and hit every branch on the way down. She was standing on unsteady legs. She didn't want to be married, and she didn't want a life in a leaky shanty filled with babies. That much she knew. That way of life was all too common in this town. In an act of desperation, she pushed Curly away from her and began running again.
Lenny, come back here!